gonna do another stream where I look into a topic that I don't know a whole lot about, or maybe just like want to get more informed. But for now, for the moment, I'm gonna tune my mandolin. I just put new strings on it, so the strings are all crazy. I should probably cut these, and I have my mic here so that I can, so you can hear me. But this actually sounds like it held tune pretty good. Not that one. This is gonna sound so bad. Hold on. That's actually not too bad. So yeah, what's up, everybody? I'm gonna give folks a chance to find the stream because this is a new type of segment. This is not the typical time that I do this at. And also, my stream yesterday where I looked into who are the Kurds and the history of Kurdistan, I lost a lot of subscribers doing that fucking video. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm super not surprised. Also, this is, like I said yesterday, this is an experimental segment. There is no like rhyme or reason to anything that I'm doing. I don't work for anybody. I don't like most people that are at the level of, I guess, YouTube presence that I'm at have like at least some type of funding or like staff, or I don't know, like what the fuck. I'm just like a person, and my typical content has been going on adventures, but I have been struggling with the U.S. medical system for a couple of years, so I'm really not going on a lot of adventures. I have gone on a few smaller adventures. But in the meantime, I've been doing a lot of live streams talking about all sorts of different things. And as of like a couple days ago, I'm starting to talk more about anarchist stuff. And YouTube really doesn't like that, actually. YouTube super doesn't like that. So I'm going to keep doing it because obviously that's the thing to do. So, yeah. Come on in, folks. I hope you're having a good day. I'm gonna give you a chance to find the stream. Let's see if we can get a few more folks in chat here before I get into it. Yesterday I had a sticker here up that is a Swazi, and it has a circle and a like an X through it. It's right here. I'd pick it up, but it's got a bunch of keef on it because I spilled my keef. But I noticed that when I took it down, there were more people in chat. So I don't know if the algorithm just doesn't like that. I'll probably put it back up because I think that it gets the right kind of people in. But what we're talking about today is manufactured consent, which is in keeping with algorithms because it's a modern era, and there are it's new warfare in a modern era. There's only 7 people in chat. I want all of you to hit the thumbs up button. There hasn't really been. That's actually crazy. Now there's only 5. Okay, cool. That's fine. These segments have good replay value, I think. So, if you're watching this after the stream, please share it somewhere, especially if you know that there's other like-minded people where you can share it. Maybe you're part of a forum or you have, you know, community. I think that that it is really important to be able to find other like-minded people. It is really difficult to do on the internet, and there's a lot of reasons why for that, and I've kind of been like really interested in kind of figuring out the ins and outs of that. So yeah, let's get into it. How's everybody doing today? Who's in chat right now? Let's see. Chris Bandit is in chat. How you doing? Anybody else? I am gonna trim these strings here. Now I got a few more folks. Say hi, folks. The algorithm hates me right now. I'm losing subscribers. So, you know, do what you can to help. Hey, what's up, Moses Law? Nice to see ya. I'm just gonna trim these. I should not be trimming these with my fucking fingernail trimmers because then it's gonna just ruin them. Whatever. Actually, yeah, I do have like real scissors. So what do you guys know about manufactured consent? Anybody in chat? I'm not getting a whole lot of chat feedback. Wolf Drifter, what's up? Do you guys like how much do you know about these kinds of topics? Yesterday, I was talking a lot about AstroTurf, and talking about kind of tying that into different issues that have been really cropping up in internet anarchist circles that seemed really sus to me. So I looked into it. Moses Law says, congrats on your top surgery. Thank you. Sierra Wheelander says, nothing. Honestly, that's good feedback. Thank you. Thank you for that. There's no wrong answers here. I'm just trying to get a gauge on how people are, are in chat, like what what demographic I'm hitting. I know my typical demographic is like the real ones are gonna watch my channel no matter what the fuck I put out. And I love that, and I really appreciate you guys. And I don't think that YouTube is going to promote this type of content. They would really, really like it if I went back to like, you know, lighthearted, fun, accessible, like easily, not, I mean, all my stuff is accessible, but like softball stuff, because they can market that better and it keeps people engaged with their app better. And, you know, when people are accustomed only to comfortable things, then they are really offended and averse to things that challenge them. And that's kind of a big part of the topic today. And it kind of all comes back to that. Like, a lot of these topics that I'm going to be talking about and the ones that I've talked about in the last few days are actually not as difficult as they seem. And there is a lot of material and content online that muddies the water and makes it seem like these concepts are unreachable to people. And that sort of makes them feel like they are out of their depths to speak on it. They feel like they're not qualified to speak on it, which is not good, right? Like, you don't have to be an absolute intellectual authority on something to have an opinion on it, and to seek out other people's opinions on it, right? So what I see a lot of online, not in person, because when you go in person and talk to other anarchists or activists or communists or whatever, it's a very different social climate than when you're talking to anarchists and communists and other people that are interested in politics online. Online, it's brutal. Like, it's brutal. And I honestly, personally have held back from posting my opinions online because I have felt that I'm out of my depth to post these things. And I was concerned about people getting the wrong idea of where I'm coming from, and just like canceling me, right? And that's bullshit. That's bullshit. There is like people are allowed to be wrong without their entire their entire perspective being invalidated and them being canceled for being a bad person or something because they said something that was taken out of context, or maybe their opinion or their take on something was just like straight up incorrect. That happens. It does. And as an anarchist librarian, I see tons of independent literature that is just like straight up not right. Like, and I don't agree with it. But I read it. Like, you don't have to agree with something to read it. That's the thing. Not everything's softball. Not everything's comforting to you. Not everything is like speaking from a position of authority. And I think that the internet and Western culture is built around perpetuating that lie. So then I'm gonna pull up my computer here. I'm gonna start up my computer. And for those wondering, Satan is outside laying in the sun. She's a very, very happy dog. And I didn't want to, I went down to see how she was, and I was like, hey, Satan, let's go inside. And she just looked at me like, hell no. Do you see that I'm laying in the sun and that I'm really having a great time? So I didn't have the heart to make her come inside. We're firing up my computer. Chris says, you expand my knowledge. Thank you. I'm glad to help. And like I said yesterday, like this segment has gotten like almost no people in chat. Like, YouTube is really not promoting this type of stuff. And that kind of proves my point. But we're like, I want to better articulate my point, and I'm going to take you guys with me. I'm not posing as some type of authority on this topic. I'm not the smartest, most well-read anarchist that has ever existed. Definitely not. I mean, I try. But nobody is. And anybody who would make you feel like your opinions are invalid because you haven't read as much theory as them, they're either bought into the psyop, and I'll define what a psyop is later in this video, but if you're bored, you can go ahead and look it up. Or they've either bought into the psyop or the propaganda, or they are promoting it actively and they're not to be trusted. So you don't have to know one way or the other, but that is a psyop. If people, like, if you ask questions about somebody's stance on something social or political, and immediately they start throwing a bunch of big words at you that make you feel stupid for not understanding their point, that's a fucking psyop. That's bullshit. No, absolutely not. And the thing about Astroturf, which I talked about yesterday, Astroturf is like a false grassroots movement. Okay? So the thing about Astroturf is that under scrutiny, it completely falls apart. Just like actual physical Astroturf versus grass, like at first glance, it looks the same, you'll accept it. You might glance out at a field and you'll be like, wow, that's a lot of grass out there, like, and then when you get a little closer and take a look, you might see that like a lot of it is actually just Astroturf. It's not grass at all. So Astroturf opinions online fall apart upon closer inspection. So if somebody like as an example, I'm gonna get my phone and pull it up. Actually, we're gonna go over this. I'm gonna break it down because this is important for y'all to understand. Because it's a war out there. Not like in the real world physically. Yes, it is too, but online. It's a war for your soul and your mind. And most of the internet is AstroTurf. I'm going to be totally real. I'm going to be totally frank. This is not a conspiracy theory. Most of the internet is bots and feds and AstroTurf. Like, I don't know what percentage of it. I don't think anybody except them knows what percentage of it is. But there is a lot of manufactured issues and manufactured fake social movements and like a landscape that is entirely made up, a social landscape. That's why they want you on social media apps, which are inundated with these bots, which create false social movements. That's AstroTurf. All right. Let's see. So on my page here, I posted a pretty softball meme, honestly, with a short little write-up, kind of like an e-zine, okay? And I'm gonna post this on, I'm gonna post this in chat actually, so y'all can see it too. That's why I'm doing it in like horizontal, so you can like go and look at other stuff without exiting out of the stream. That's why YouTube doesn't fucking like it. That's why I'm gonna keep doing it. Let's copy link. I'm gonna go to YouTube. And I will explain my point in just a moment. Let's see. There's me. There's me. Okay. Here's the page. Kathleen says, nice to see you again. What's up, Kathleen? Antonia Radford says, hi, Corn. What's up? So this is my page, and that's the post. It's a really softball post. It's basically like, the premise is like anarchist and communist equals friends. Like, duh. Like, that's not that's not a contentious point. And if you are out in the field, which is, you know, at a protest, which is a very small percentage of what an anarchist does, like a minuscule amount of what an anarchist does. Most of what an anarchist does is like mutual aid, like helping people, like bringing supplies to people in need, distributing food, going to book clubs, discussing the books that you've read at the book clubs, volunteering in a number of ways. Yeah, like a huge, huge part of an anarchist life, like the main thing is mutual aid and collectivism. Obviously. So you don't, like, if you're out in the field, as it were, like out touching grass in society among other people, like, this is a no-brainer. I work with communists constantly when I'm out doing mutual aid. I see them out there. I know who they are. They see me. They see other anarchists too. And like, it's pretty well understood that those are the people with boots on the ground, performing mutual aid. And we love each other. You know, there's definitely like fine points and like different specific movements and subsects of both parties that we don't jive with. But like philosophically, it works pretty well. And there's tons of people that are anarcho-communists as well. I don't know if I would call myself an anarcho-communist per se. I'm definitely an anarchist, and I do vibe with a lot of communist theory. I really do. And I'm also learning a lot more about it. So I wrote in this post about how it basically that it's a really weird time for an anarchist to be posting anti-communist rhetoric when there's so obviously like other shit going on. Like right now, when you think about the biggest issues in the world right now, the first thing that you think of is not going to be communists. You're not going to be like, it's those goddamn commies that are ruining the world. No, you're like, it's pedophiles that are ruining the world. It's the ruling class that's ruling the world. That's ruining the world. It's the billionaire class that's ruining the world, right? Like I don't think communists would be like anywhere on my list of like top bad guys in the world right now. Um, that's not to say that people who have called themselves communists haven't done shitty things, but even upon further inspection, that's also sus too. And that's why that's why I wanted to talk about manufactured consent today. And I know that this is a whole lot of discussion and just me talking about these things without like, and you're probably like, okay, get to the point. Are you guys following me so far? I want, now that we got 17 people in chat, which is still like a tiny ass fucking number for my channel, let me know what you think about what I'm saying so far. So on that post, softball post about how anarchists and communists are not enemies, very fucking simple statement. I had a lot of shares, more shares than I've gotten on any of my other solo posts that I didn't collab with anybody on, like 517 right now. And I posted this like 2 days ago. That's actually, that defies the algorithm. Like, that shows me that there is actually, like, most people agree with me. But if you look into the comments section, there is definitely a discrepancy between what people are saying and how people are reacting. And this goes to show you that AstroTurf speaks very loudly. And that is why you might get the impression that more communists hate anarchists and more anarchists hate communists. But that's not the case. Like, if you go out in the real world, you will see that's not true. And anybody talking like the people in my comment section here, in actual physical spaces where we're doing mutual aid and activist actions, those people would not be welcome to return. Those people would not, like we have bigger fish to fry, so we're not, like, I don't think that, like, I guess I'm trying to, like, I honestly can't picture how it would even go for these people to be in these physical spaces. Like, I genuinely don't. Because, like, if somebody, like, boldface came in to an anarchist space and started saying shit like, let's see. Started saying shit like, if not liking Lenin, Stalin, Trotsky, or Mao makes me not an anarchist, then words have no meaning. And then following up with, as an anarchist, there are many that are anti-communist due to the names I listed. They have historically argued against anarchism and used the state to implement authoritarian regimes. Now, while the guy who just read Marx calling himself a communist because he wants a classless, stateless society is not necessarily my enemy, the people still fanboying over Stalin in the year 2026 are not my comrades and never have been. So if not liking dictators, even if they claim to be Marxist, doesn't make me an anarchist. Words have no meaning. Anarchism comes from the Greek word for without rulers. And I genuinely don't know what I would, like, I'll remind you, this is in response to a softball post about how anarchists and communists are not natural enemies. Very weird. I don't know if this specific account is an infighting propaganda account. I don't know. Or if they've just drank the Kool-Aid. Not sure. I do know that some folks that are terminally online have drank the Kool-Aid. But I don't know if this specific account is, like, doing this on purpose or if they're just buying into the propaganda. And then I ask, I do think that this is, like, I don't know, but I do think that they are actually, like, intentionally, so I said, where do you find these Stalinist fanboys? I've never encountered one in real life. Reasonable thing to say, I think. And here's where another red flag comes into play. This person says, brother, I've met several people that praise Stalin and Mao. If you want to find tankies, go to where the tankies are. I don't know what country you're in, but even groups like PSL, it's really not hard to find communists simping for Russia, China, or any objectively evil government that claims anti-imperialism because their interests are aligned against the United States. So, like, I asked a very simple question. I asked, like, where do you find these Stalinist fanboys? And instead of defending their position in a reasonable manner, they come back at me aggressively, implying that I don't go to places where communists are. And then also making a blanket statement about communists in general, like implying they all feel this way instead of answering my very simple question. So it's a huge red flag. They're muddying the waters. I don't know, again, if it's on purpose or not. And this other person jumped on like 11 minutes ago recently saying, like, he mentioned the PSL, a very, very active Marxist-Leninist party in the USA. That is very interesting. So I have, let's look into PSL, because I do know that PSL is an organization that is working to create social movement that stands against the corruption of the U.S. government. At least that's the platform that they're on. I don't know if PSL specifically is a fake org, but other anarchists that I do respect have expressed that they do not trust PSL. And I've never pressed for why exactly. I'm just like, okay, and then we move on because we have other stuff going on. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Like, a lot of these organizations are astroturfed by the Democratic Party, which still is serving the ruling class. Okay, so, and this is such a big topic. Manufactured consent is such a big topic. And I know a lot about this, but also I do feel like I'm out of my depth because I don't know how deep it goes. That's the issue. That is the real issue. I don't know how deep the manufactured consent rabbit hole goes. How many in chat know what manufactured consent is, or at least are somewhat familiar with it as a concept? And I'm going to look up PSL right now and look up PSL org. And I'm not using Google search. I am not fucking using Google search. Do not do your research, your looking into topics on Google. Okay? Don't do that. And if you don't know why, I truly don't know what to tell you. Google is owned by the ruling class and it is curated by the ruling class. If you're especially getting information through Google AI, then you are getting a heavily curated and distorted version of reality and what is going on in the world. So PSL is the Party for Socialism and Liberation. It seems innocuous. I'm not a socialist, but like with communism, I vibe with elements of socialism. And liberation is good. We like liberation, right, as a concept. Sierra Wheelander says, following, hell yeah, welcome. Jace T says, when it comes to certain topics. I'm using Yandex right now, but a lot of times I use Ecosia. Just like literally anything that's not owned by Google is going to be better than Google for obvious reasons. And I feel like we could do a deep dive on like the list of ultra wealthy billionaires that rule the world and control all of the media that we consume. But right now I'm trying to stay focused on this. But I am going to look up least biased search engines. And Reddit is a good gauge to see how a lot of people feel about stuff. There's definitely Astroturf, but there's not really. The thread was deleted by user, and the last comment says there's no such thing. Use several with at least one not based out of Silicon Valley. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, all right. Anyway, right now I'm using Yandex. I can look up how reliable that is later. But I'm on the PSL website right now. Learn about the PSL's political outlook and socialist program. I don't want to get too in the weeds here. And also, that is another good indicator of whether something is a psyop, is if it takes a whole lot of your time to figure out your stance on it and it's really, really convoluted and unclear, then probably it's not worth your time and it's at least somewhat of a psyop. The thing about communist and anarchist ideals is that it's accessible and easy to understand. And the core tenets, any old fucking idiot like me or whoever should be able to understand the core concepts pretty quickly and be able to jump off of those core concepts into deeper and deeper conversations. It shouldn't be from up here down. You should not have to work back to the simplest ideas from very convoluted and polluted with academia speak or pseudo academia speak. If it's like a bunch of big smart sounding words that make you feel dumb sandwiched with really like softball blanket statements that make you feel smart, it's like the 1-2 punch of propaganda. It brings you in with these simple concepts that are like that everybody agrees with, like war is bad. Like, yes, of course it is. Ruling class bad. Yes, of course. Like racism bad. Yes, of course. And then they'll go in with some like long rant about like the history of the Bolsheviks or some shit. And then your brain just turns into jelly. And you're like, yeah, I don't know jack shit about all that, but yeah, of course, because you don't want to look like an idiot after you just appeared to look like you were in your depth, right? Like that's embarrassing. It's basic human psychology. It's a psyop. 1-2 punch of propaganda, softball statements, and then those are like kind of sandwiched around these fucking like convoluted pseudo academic fucking like long-winded history and rhetoric lessons that's just like them talking at you so that if you don't agree with them, then they're gonna attack you for having like bad praxis or some shit. Like hell no. If you want to know if it's like an actual grassroots idea, then just ask some follow-up questions. Don't get your ego up in it and just be like, hey, I don't actually understand how you got from here to here. Can you like walk back and like bring me through these concepts so that I can understand? And a reasonable person will be so happy to do that because they want you to understand. They really, really do want you to understand. But a person that is perpetuating propaganda and AstroTurf will get really defensive. They'll get upset with you and they'll talk down to you. They'll be really condescending and they'll launch into a long-winded rant about some thing that happened 100 years ago or whatever. And that's how you know. That's how you know that's fucking AstroTurf, okay? So I want you guys to tell me if you understand what I'm getting at so far so that I can move forward into like the actual point of what I'm talking about. Anybody? How do you feel? How do you feel about what I've been talking about so far? Do you guys understand pretty okay what AstroTurf is? Because that is really important for you guys to understand what manufactured consent is. Chris Bandit says learning. Yeah, just keep in mind most of the internet is AstroTurf, okay? Anybody else? I need you guys to fucking type in the comment section to drive up engagement because YouTube hates this segment. Also, I'm about halfway, a little over halfway through my stream. If you have learned something, vote with your dollar and send me a couple bucks so that I can fucking eat. Okay? Because I'm broke as a joke and my teeth are falling apart and the US dental system is not doing anything for me. So I'm probably going to be trying to save up so I can go to Mexico and get some crowns. Unfortunately, that's where we're at as the world's greatest country. Yeah. Anybody else? In the description there are links to my Cash App, my Venmo, and my PayPal. I implore you, because we are in horizontal, you can go down and click those and it's not going to take you off my video. I would love it if you dropped a $5 or whatever. Please and thank you. I know we're all hurting right now. I'm just going to take a look and see if anybody did. Because I really appreciate when people do that, and I want to give you a shout out if you did. Oh, hell yeah. Thank you, Rod Ostrich. And if not knowing where to find the links is your excuse for not kicking down, Rod Ostrich 5 here is posting them in the comment section right now. Also, raise your hand if you like this type of segment. If you don't raise your hand, then I'm going to go start some communist anarchist infighting in the next Food Not Bombs distro that I go to. Can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine, dude? Can you imagine? Like, this internet discourse would never fly in actual space, like real physical activist spaces. Like, hell no. These people would be immediately removed. Like, they would not be they would not be included in future actions or groups or whatever. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, just keep that in mind when you're online and you're looking through anarchist or communist like discourses. Remember that most of these people, especially the loudest, most vitriolic ones, are not real people. They're either feds or they're bots, okay? Just remember that. Reasonable people discuss their logic, and they're happy to do that. Unreasonable people are the antithesis of discourse. They're actively impeding the exchange of ideas and information, which is not what we do. That is not what we do. Chris raised their hand. Moses Law raised their hand. Hell yeah. Anybody else? We got 19 people in chat here and only 2 people enjoy this segment. What is going on? I need to see some more hands in chat. Also, fuck you, pay me. Alms for the poor. Man, if I keep doing these kinds of segments, I'm never getting out of the hood, man. Fuck. So no, I did get my Patreon payout. That's cool. And Chris Bandit kicked down yesterday. Thank you so much. Okay, my fucking computer is dying and my working charger is in storage. This charger is not working for some reason, but maybe it will magically work this time. I hope so, because otherwise I'm gonna have to get to the storage unit before I can do another segment like this. And I really am trying to tap into a different audience with this type of segment. Come on, man. I know that there's obviously a lot of crossover. Most people that watch my stuff are at least like somewhat anarchistic. All right. Damn it, it's not working. Yeah, this charger's fucked. That really sucks, dude. All right. Says, I just got in. And you're already slinging links, dude. I appreciate the hell out of you. Roman is raising their hand. Hell yeah, happy to have you in chat. Now we're getting some more folks in chat. That's great. That's great. So I'm going to look up what the definition of manufactured consent is. All right, we're going to finally get into that. Now that we've got honestly, you know what? None of you have even expressed that you understand what I'm talking about when I say AstroTurf. I really, like, I need you guys, if you don't get it, then I can go back and talk about it some more and make some more, get some more examples. But if you do get it, I need you guys to say that you get it. If you don't, then tell me that, because I don't want to just like sit here and just say a bunch of words that you don't understand, okay? Because I'm not AstroTurf and I'm not a propagandist. I really need you guys to understand these concepts. Don't feel stupid if you don't, okay? This is important. All right. Chris gets it. Good. Anybody else? Anybody? Yay or nay? Y'all want to know what's funny about... Well, hold on. I need more people in chat to just say that you get it or you don't get it. JC Moses Last says, I did not get it. I've been trying to find out since last PM. Okay. All right, that's fair. Let's go back to... Anybody else? Anybody else in the dark here? I need like an accurate readout of who gets it and who doesn't get it. Because I don't want to just assume that everybody's familiar with these concepts because the people that I know are familiar with these concepts. Like, this is all like pretty elementary stuff for an anarchist activist that, you know, has been in this world for a while, like this realm of activism. So for me, this is like I don't even remember a time that I didn't understand what AstroTurf was. But that I don't want there to be a disconnect between like anarchist academic terminology and the proletariat. You probably don't know what the proletariat refers to either, which is also to be, I mean, of course, like, why would you? This information is suppressed by the ruling class. That's why I'm an anarchist librarian. That's why I've dedicated my life to distributing information and zines, specifically anarchist zines, because people don't have access to this kind of information. Actually, now keep in mind when I share this with you, okay? Keep in mind that not everything that you read that calls itself an anarchist zine is like the end-all be-all source of information. Like, none of this is like a Bible, okay? But I'm gonna look up anarchist library .org, I think, and I'm gonna share it in the chat. And this is a source of an archive of anarchist literature. Now, keep in mind that anybody, you or me or my grandma or my cousin or the crackhead behind the dumpster near your favorite bodega could write something up and submit it, and it could be accepted. I don't know who decides what goes in. How the fuck did I get to calvinklein.usa? What the fuck? That is bizarre. Okay. Anarchist library. I'm just going to search anarchist library online. That was so weird. Okay, yeah, it is the anarchistlibrary.org. So I'm going to drop that into the chat. That's PDFs. And if you go back and watch this video where I talk about how to tell AstroTurf from real grassroots stuff, that will help you to decide what it is that you're, whether what you're reading rings true to you or doesn't. Here we go. And I will break down the difference between grassroots and AstroTurf again, okay? There's that, and you can download those and read them on your phone or your tablet or your computer offline anytime. You can take those PDFs and print them out at the library. If you find a zine that explains things in a way that makes sense to you, then you can go and print off like 100 of them for a couple of bucks, and you can share them with your friends. That is a big part of what anarchists do. That's a big part of what I do. So let's see. Roman says, I get it. Looking forward to all perspectives, though. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Tonya says, just got back, dog business, so I missed 10 minutes. All right, well, Tonya, did you understand when I was talking about astroturfing versus grassroots? How many of you know what grassroots means? What is a grassroots movement? And the fact that a lot of people don't know this, like, I feel like we all should know these terms, but the reason that we don't is because we live in the US and all of our education is completely gutted. They want us to just be obedient, stupid slaves to convenience and comfort because that makes us useful for them, and it makes it easy for them to manufacture consent. Okay, so AstroTurf movement. Let's go back and read it again. Astroturfing is the deceptive practice of hiding the sponsors of an orchestrated message or organization to make it appear as though it originates from and is supported by unsolicited grassroots participants. It is a practice intended to give the statements or organizations credibility by withholding information about the source's financial backers. So, in dumb fuck terms, in goober drunk punk terms, okay, like regular fucking folks, not that smart like academic mumbo jumbo bullshit. Astroturfing is when something, a message that is posing as a message from regular folks like you or I. So on its surface, it could be like an edgy meme that seems like it is saying something that like the general populace agrees with, or a fair amount of group, like a fair amount of people that you identify with agree with this. And these messages are put out by unknown sources who have a specific interest in misdirecting you and misdirecting your understanding. This could be like the CIA, or it could be different politicians. I think a lot of these ideas come from like higher up institutions, like, like the CIA. And the reason I talked about this a lot yesterday is because I believe that the Kurdish movement is a long game CIA operation to manufacture our consent for our government waging war on Iran. And if you disagree with that, if you understand all of those words that I said and all of the concepts that you need to understand before coming to that conclusion, then by all means, start a conversation in the comments. I would love to hear your input on that. But if you don't understand all of those words, then it's okay. You can go back and you can look up the definition of each of those words. But I'm going to say it again. Astroturfing is fake grassroots. It's grassroots is an organic movement by normal people like you and I. Let's say in our town, let's say you and I live in the same small town, and we think that it would be really nice if there were more ramps for handicapped people, because maybe your grandma is in a wheelchair and you have noticed that it's really hard for her to get in and out of the bank or, wherever. And so you and I and a couple of our friends get together and we go talk to the city and we're like, hey, how can we get more funding for more wheelchair ramps for our grandmas and stuff? That's a grassroots movement. Okay? So that's, of course we want that. Of course we want to take care of our community. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. That is a grassroots movement. An AstroTurf movement would be, okay, I'm going to see if I can come up with a good example based on that example that I just made, which is an actual, there are grassroots movements for that very thing. But let's say if I were a really rich guy that lives in town, let's say I was in the government and I wanted all of the funding for this town not to go into something else that benefits me and my business that I own in town. And I don't want that funding to be redirected into handicap accessible ramps, because I want all the money to go into I would say I would phrase it, and maybe there's lobbyists. Lobbyists are people anyway. So I would phrase it as I would want to turn these people who are in a grassroots movement to get more wheelchair accessible stuff into the bad guys, in some way. And that would be really hard, but lobbyists do this shit all the time. So I might put out some literature posing as these people who's like, yeah, my grandma's in a wheelchair too, and she has a really hard time getting into and out of buildings, and it sucks to look at. And that is why we need to actually put more money into this business that the person who is paying for this message, this AstroTurf message, owns. Because this local business run by this kind man who is also in a wheelchair has a personal vested interest in making the whole town more accessible. And that is why you should give all the money to this business. If you agree that this town should be more wheelchair accessible, then if you are petitioning for wheelchair ramps, then you're actually the enemy of accessibility, because you are taking and funneling money away from this kind business and this business owner who is in a wheelchair, mind you, that wants to make this whole town more wheelchair accessible. And all you got to do is just believe us and send your money to him instead of this grassroots movement. That would be an example of astroturfing. Do you get it better now? Does that, I know it's a lot, and the whole point is that it's confusing. Okay? Does that make more sense now? Roman says astroturfing, build ramps and charge people that use them for monthly maintenance removed from their disability checks. That would be another example. Yes, exactly. Tonya says, similar to what Israel has done to Palestine. Bingo. Bingo. Thank you very much. Now you guys are fucking getting it. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Comes with nefarious intentions and possibly funded. Exactly. Rod Astridge says that shit makes me sick. Exactly. So now we're getting into it. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes here. I love that you guys are giving me feedback. This is great. And now we've got 27 people in chat too. If you just joined, please go back and watch the rest of the video if this resonates with you. I will be doing more segments like this. So if this is hitting your algorithm, I really need you to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. So now we're going to look at manufactured consent, now that we've passed that. Now we understand. This is where it gets a little bit tricky for me, because I understand the concept of manufactured consent. Just like it says it in the name, like they're manufacturing consent. Just like in that example that I pulled out of my ass, the way that they're framing this issue, this made-up issue, is to create a situation where we consent to sending our tax dollars to a corporation with unknown intention. Probably they're evil because it's a corporation, and anybody that is motivated by acquiring capital by and we can people talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but they're evil. Capitalism bad. Okay, you don't have to understand all of the you don't have to understand academic concepts to look around you in the world and see that capitalism bad. Okay, it's not a heady concept. It does a lot of damage. And you spend probably if you don't know what all these concepts are, or maybe you didn't go to college or whatever, you spend a whole lot of time stressed out because of capitalism. And if it is inaccessible to the poor, it is not radical or revolutionary. They don't want radical and revolutionary because it makes people harder to control. That's why they don't want you knowing what these terms mean. And what's really just so confusing about this, especially, and this is why I don't know how deep this goes, but the book came out the year I was born, actually, 1988, titled Manufacturing Consent, is by Edward S. Herman and Noam Chomsky. How many of you know who Noam Chomsky is? Curious. Anybody? No. Well, thanks for your feedback. I appreciate that. JC Moses Law says, yes, I know of his work. Anybody else? You don't, I'm going to be perfectly frank. Like, I haven't read a lot of Chomsky. I've read some. I don't think I've sat down and read like an entire book of his because, well, I'm not going to get into it, but so I'm trying to decide what order I'm going to deliver this information. But I'm just going to anyway. Manufacturing Consent: The Political Economy of the Mass Media is a 1988 book by Edward S. Herman and Noam Chomsky. It argues that the mass communication media of the U.S. are effective and powerful ideological institutions that carry out a system supported propaganda, blah, 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 blah. That's why I don't fucking read Chomsky, because intentionally confusing, I think. And it just like talks to you like you're stupid and he's smart. And you want to know something? This is going to break anybody's heart that has read Chomsky and really resonated with him. Dude went to the fucking Epstein Island, man, a few times. Epstein and Chomsky were homeboys. So, yeah. Take it with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean that everything that he's ever said was wrong, but also it really puts things into perspective. So that's why I struggle, because I don't know how deep the manufactured consent goes. But like the concept of manufacturing consent, like if y'all had to take a guess what that means, what do you think that that means based on the idea that mass communication of the US is an effective and powerful? I'm going to skip all of those fucking words, all those fucking words, all those fucking words, so many fucking words. Oh my God. Oh my God. Basically, it's a whole lot of fucking farts in the wind to say that mass media is a psyop. Mass media creates conflict that doesn't exist. It creates the idea of conflicts that out in the real world we wouldn't see. So, like I said earlier, manufacture like the U.S. government and the CIA funding Kurdish movements. Okay, don't let your brain gel over. There very well may be actual real issues that the Kurds are facing. It's hard to tell because of manufactured consent, because of astroturfing online. But by putting a bunch of money into these Kurdish tribes and getting them all riled up about things like whether that's true or not, that manufactures consent of people who, like, it has been aimed at anarchists too, like people in general, the general populace of the US, to want the US government to intervene in the Middle East. If you fund these groups that clash and have and destabilize each other, you destabilize these governments, make things more dangerous, and you arm opposing sides without the rest of us understanding that that's what's going on, you make it look like in the Middle East it's absolute chaos and everybody's trying to kill each other and they need help. So you manufacture the consent of the people to say, yeah, you know, like, I think war sucks, but we should really liberate the Middle East and impose our own rule over it until they can, you know, figure themselves out, because they're clearly just animals. They can't figure their own shit out themselves. Never mind the fact that our tax dollars have gone to these opposing forces and created astroturf movements which fuel conflict. That is the entire purpose of this propaganda. And for the CIA putting all this money into Kurdish groups. And for all of these astroturfed zines that I've been seeing floating around about freeing Iran. Like, we love liberation. This is an example of astroturf, like I said before, like, liberation, good, yes. People standing up for themselves against a tyrannical government, good, yes, we like that. So on its face, free Iran sounds like a really good thing. But in actuality, what it's like, the agenda behind it is so that we consent to the US bombing Iran. That's it. That's manufactured consent. Chris says, I understand. Moses Law says he appeared in the Epstein files. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah, Chomsky's in the Epstein files. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that. It broke my heart too. Not too bad because I really never was like, Chomsky's my guy. Chomsky's my boy. I just, like anything that would elevate another human being to like celebrity status where you think that their words are infallible, where you're like, that is just a fucking great man. Everything that he says is fucking gold, whatever. Fuck that. Every human being is a piece of shit in one way or another. We're not infallible. I say dumb shit. I have unwittingly, not on purpose, I have shared propaganda before. And it'll probably happen again. I really try to be on top of it, but it does happen. We all do it. But if there's one thing that you can say about me is that I'm fucking real as hell. Like you can go back through my content for a decade, and like you can see that I've lived a real life. Like there's yeah. But under scrutiny, other content creators don't, it's not as obvious. And that's another, there's a whole lot we could talk about here. So, all right. Everybody following me so far? I need some feedback in chat here. Also, I'm going to take a moment for, oh, hey, somebody did kick down in T. Tagore. I'm going to read your comment because it looks like an interesting comment that's worth reading. And sorry if I didn't say your name wrong or your name right. Yes, and if you don't believe me about the Epstein files, T says, come on, fucker. Oh my God, my phone's shitting out. I'm certain I've got malware and spyware on my phone. That's not like a hyperbolic thing. That is really something that the government does. T says, poor people share more. Sorry, can't share more. Hope it helps a bit. You are such a goddamn sweetheart. Thank you so much. And it's true. Poor folks do share more because they actually have a better concept of how much something is worth. Patty says, you're opening my eyes viewing our politics and events in the Middle East through the concept of astroturf and manufactured consent. Boom. Love to hear that. Hell yeah. If even one person gets through this video or learns something new from my content that opens their eyes a little bit more, that's worth it to me. So I really appreciate you saying that. And let's see it. So you can, I don't know, I'm going to look up read Epstein files. You can read and search the Epstein files on justice.gov. And I'm going to post that in the chat here too. You can search terms if you want. Justice.gov. And also keep in mind, like, falling into a doomer spiral about the Epstein files. There are thousands and thousands of people that are more in their element that are going over these files right now. Like, it is not up to you to crack this case. But if you want to look up names of people that you're wondering like how serious to take their perspectives, go ahead and search the name of the person that you're like, okay, this person's kind of spitting. Like, I wonder, I wonder how serious I should take their perspective. Go and search their name. Let's take a look here. Are you 18 years of age or older? Yes. Thank you. They do make it hard to search full Epstein library. Let's see. Chomsky. Let's look up Chomsky. Oh God, he's in here a lot. It really puts things into perspective, man. Like, just because it's anarchist theory or anti-establishment, anti-government, or like a critique of the government does not mean that it's not a psyop. I'm sorry to say it. Jesus Christ. He's not just like mentioned in here. Like, here, let me show you. Let me show you. Sorry to break your guys' hearts. Look at this. There's a lot, all right? I'm scrolling down here. He's in there a lot, dude. I'm not like, holy fuck. This is the guy that literally wrote the book on manufactured consent. Isn't that funny as hell? That doesn't mean that manufactured consent isn't a real thing. Holy shit, he's in here a lot. How many pages are here? Holy fuck. That's crazy. Okay, five pages. Last. Let's go last. DOJ disclosures. Why do they make it so hard to... They make it really hard to navigate here. All right, whatever. There's at least 5 pages with many, many mentions. And that's just one guy. So if you're like looking into who is putting forth whatever concept that you're getting into, like, search them in there. I don't know. And it will be illuminating for sure. Yeah. Any questions? Patty says the CIA is now going to fund the Kurds to have an uprising in Iran. Example of astroturfing. And that astroturfing goes back to the Ottoman Empire. At least. At least. And that's where a lot of our ruling class families kind of hedged their rule back then. But I'm only just cracking into that. I really do think that maybe the next stream I do like this is going to be digging into the Ottoman Empire and like what exactly occurred, because they sure as hell didn't teach me that in school. They sure as hell didn't. And there a lot of interesting things happened during the era when the Ottoman Empire fell. Like, I don't know anything about it. Directly after the fall of the Ottoman Empire is when the first Kurdish like settlement or whatever was established, and it was also literally the year after Israel was established. Did you know that Israel was established in 1917 and it did not have a government until 1949? Just saying. You know, Israel is also like more than AstroTurf, I think, you know, and it goes deep. So that's why I really wanted you guys to get a fundamental understanding of like what it is and how to identify it, and what manufactured consent is. It's when they manufacture consent for things. They're manufacturing. It means it's not actually consent. It means it's like intentionally convoluted so that we think that we consent to it, basically. And Chomsky's a pedophile. But let's see. Tanya Radford says, I guess when your friends are spies, manufacturing consent becomes second nature. Bingo. Yeah. It's funny, man. Like, of course he had a theory of manufacturing consent because he was, like, in on it. Like, he was homies with the people doing it, if not one of the people doing it also. A puppet of the ruling class to disseminate incorrect philosophy sandwiched with softball philosophy that we all can agree with. Exactly like I mentioned before. Chomsky's a psyop. Also, okay, homework. Let's see. This actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with today's topic, but I would like anybody that feels like it to look up the eco-activist Judy Berry. and what happened to Judy Berry. I don't know why that came to my mind, but yeah. Go learn about Judy Berry. That's Bari. And what happened to her. And then bonus points next time. You can tell me what you learned. And extra bonus points if you figure out how it ties in with the CIA and astroturfing and such. Moses Law says, one time I told my photography teachers that I didn't believe Bill Gates was a good guy. They didn't believe me. They thought of him as a charitable guy. Yeah. Yep. It is really amazing to me how people on the left can, like, so easily be duped by the duality of the two-party system. It's like, if red bad means blue good, so we will defend our camp, our like, if we're against these guys, then we must be these guys. No. Democrats are also on the side of the ruling class and the billionaires. They're ghouls. So yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more next time. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Leave them in the comment section. And if there is a topic that you would like to hear me talk about in the future, then definitely drop a comment. I have links in the description. If any of my mods are in chat and you would like to drop those links, that would be really, really cool. Otherwise, you can go down to the description and click on PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. The more that people kick down, the more I will be able to do this. So I do appreciate you guys joining me, and look up Judy Berry, and look further into some of these buzzwords that I've said so that you can better understand next time. And I will see you soon. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.